Hello and welcome to WordBirds, a birds of a feather conversation amongst people who care about words. Today on the show, Michael Cooper. Michael is the Content Experience Manager at Hewlett Packard Enterprise's Customer Innovation Center. Today we are going to talk about taking content to the next level, driving it into real experiences. This is an amazing episode that includes everything that they're doing in their Customer Innovation Center, including the VR that takes people to space. Let's sit back and get some insight from the fly. Hello, Michael. Welcome to WordBirds.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to be on the show and talk to you guys about some of the awesome stuff that we've been doing here at HPE.
I am also excited about that. Like we start in just about every episode now, we're at the quickfire section. I am going to say a thing, and all I need is just a quick answer from you, and we'll key in on, once we finish, we'll key in on anything super interesting that happened. Amazing content is...
Oh, the first rung. There's so much more that you have to do now other than create amazing content. I wish it was just as easy as creating amazing content, but it's just the beginning.
Concise or descriptive content?
Oh, let's get to the point, please. Let's be concise. There are way too many word jumbles that exist out there. If we can just get to the point, I think everyone, internally, customers, everyone would appreciate it. So let's be concise.
Company with the best brand voice?
I'm going to reveal myself as a sneakerhead, but I'm going to say Nike. Oh, I love Nike. I am on their sneakers app. I'm on the Nike app. I remember having my first Air Jordans when I was a kid. So, man, you want to talk about longevity? You don't even have to have their name anymore. Just the swoosh, and you know who they are.
Best piece of content advice?
Oh, that's a tough one. Know your audience for sure. Especially, again, like in this post-pandemic thing that we're doing now, if you don't know your audience, then you're wasting your time.
And finally, when I'm creating content, I always
put myself in the perspective of who I believe will be consuming this content.
Okay, so the last two kind of tie together, and I think it's really interesting because we get that answer quite a bit. Like, I think all of us as content people really have shifted to a world of really focusing on the audience. And I think it's interesting because when you think about the way that you build, for instance, your style guide or your tone of voice inside a business, it's a thing that we create. That's our job. But the idea of matching that to the audience and then monitoring the audience to see how they accept and engage brings all of that into focus as a thing that evolves.
Yeah, and we're at the point in, me working for a technology company, it's all about the data that's tied to all of that too, right? Constantly monitoring to see what people are consuming, how long they're consuming it, what works for them, even on our interactive storyboards that we have here in our center, being able to see what people are spending time consuming. Using that data is really what is going to help us propel things to the next level, to again kind of get the content out that people aren't consuming, or if they're not spending as much time on it, determining why, using the data to determine like what it is about this piece of content that makes it less desirable to consume, and how can we improve that.
Oh, fantastic answer. And I mean, on that note, let's sort of talk about what you do here. So tell me about the concept of the HPE Customer Innovation Center.
Sure. So we wanted to, HPE just recently changed headquarter locations. We were previously in San Jose, California. We decided about 2 years ago that we were going to relocate to Texas, and so we are now located on the north side of Houston, Texas. And as part of this new building, this was a ground up build. This gave us an opportunity to kind of look at how we wanted to approach several things, and one of those was how we were going to use our briefing center, or our executive briefing center. And so how we had done in the past was so traditional, and we decided decided that, as we were having this opportunity to kind of start fresh and really take a look and use the data to determine, what this needed to be moving forward, we decided that the focus on what the customer was doing with the technologies that we're bringing forward is what's of most importance. And it's not so much a look what we can do, but it is, look what our customers can do with what we're providing them.
So, I mean, you've talked about an executive briefing center. I've heard of an executive briefing center. The idea of a customer innovation center is very specific. Was that a decision that was made, and why is it important to be known as an innovation center versus just the standard executive briefing center?
So the standard executive briefing centers really implies a C-suite only. So your CEOs, your CFOs, your CIOs coming in, and that's not what we're after. We're looking to expand who we're opening this space to. So as part of that, we kind of decided that the executive side of that didn't really fit anymore, and then the executive briefing kind of sounds more like a one-way conversation. And again, that is not what we're doing here now. Like we are having a conversation together to help determine, what we can do as almost like a team to propel and move things forward for, our customers.
So, I mean, that leads towards the way that you communicate, because you've been very specific about terminology in this case. How do you maintain that consistency of message, of journey across, multiple centers across the globe?
So that was challenging because we really are spread out. We have 7 global centers, one obviously being in Houston. We have one in San Jose, New York City. Then across the other side of the pond, we have London and Geneva and Dubai and Singapore. So we're in almost all of the time zones and spread across. So making sure that the messaging is consistent was difficult, honestly, because we also didn't want to diminish the local flair, like those stories that really made that center shine, or those showcases that they had there, because every center definitely has a unique flavor to it, but you still have to have consistency of message. And so we ended up going with a platform that allows us to push content to screens. So I can see across all 7 of our centers at any given time from anywhere that I am, what content is being shown, in each of those locations, and creating playlists, for each of those centers. And the great thing about that is we can create these playlists in a way that it has all of the consistent, messaging that we have that we want in all of our centers, but it also allows those centers to individually go in and add specific content that again, like adds to the local flair of that particular location. So, and the ability to manage the content in that way is so impactful, because we work with the brand team, as new things come out, being able to add new content is great, but it's also important that you don't have, dated, stagnant content that's been out there for too long or is no longer relevant. Like being able to deactivate that, from one place global, in a global fashion. It just makes such a massive impact on how we make sure that our message is consistent across the globe.
Well, I like that hierarchical rule model. Like, so at the top, there's things that all the centers are going to do, and then you drill down into each one of them, and there's variation. And as long as they maintain, for instance, we all use the name of the company correctly. Like, that's a thing that we would do. And from there down, one center in New York, different than one center in Houston, has their own language. You got a New York accent, maybe a Long Island accent in Manhattan, and a lot of y'alls being used. I'm being way
I did
too
say
specific,
Houston. We do it.
I mean, it's right in there, bringing that local flair, but adopting the guidelines of the business down into those segments.
Yeah, so you have in addition to just us making that shift from executive briefing center to customer innovation center, on top of that, so we had some internal branding there that we kind of had to get used to, but then also outward facing, they're also, we have to make sure we keep that. There's some clarification there that HP that makes the laptops and the desktops and the printers is a separate company from who we are as Hewlett Packard Enterprise, because we're more enterprise facing for our customers, and so we're looking at edge to cloud, whereas they're looking at desktop to print. So just making sure that like all of those messages and all that naming and all of that is consistent across the board, and that's clear to our customers when they come in. They know who we are, they know what we're about, and because of this this system that we've implemented, we're able to do that.
Now, thinking of when we talk about content, I think people generally think, okay, written words, but that's not all for you right now. You're also using VR to help customers understand how they can work with you, how your products work. Tell me a little bit about how VR as a piece of content is helping you do your job.
So you like for customers to be able to use their imagination. Just like if you're going to go buy a new house, you want to picture yourself in that house, right? Before you've bought it, before you've signed the documents, you have to think like things that you have and how you might, how it may lay out, how it may look. So we find that VR is a great way to do that kind of thing. So we have a few specific customer stories that we have had created in VR that gives our customers that are coming into the centers the ability to experience those virtually. And we were really particular about which stories that we told in that way, because there are some stories that work perfectly fine, maybe a white paper, maybe on our interactive storyboards, maybe like in a video in our theater, there are certain stories that work just fine there. But there are a few stories that's like, video and verbal or written just doesn't do it justice, right? And one of those of the three stories was getting to go aboard the International Space Station.
Right?
It's I think they called it cost prohibitive to try to send customers up on the ISS.
Depends on the customer, but okay.
Yeah, right. So we decided that would have been that was a great example of being able to show customers that, yes, we have currently aboard the ISS right now, orbiting around our heads is a piece of Hewlett Packard Enterprise hardware called the Spaceborne Computer 2. It's like halfway through a 36-month mission, and it's doing all these wild experiments. And so as part of this experience, you get to go aboard the ISS, you get to do a spacewalk, you get to go and change out a piece of hardware on the outside of the ISS. And all this was based on actual things that happened after we installed the Spaceborne Computer 2 aboard the ISS. So you get to actually experience what that would be like. And so that's just one of them. So this really we're constantly talking about this edge to cloud story. Well, space is literally like the edge of the edge, right? Because in that circumstance, the cloud is actually Earth, because they're transmitting that data back down, right? But that gives customers an understanding of the rigor that all this hardware has gone through. It's good out in space. Surely it will be perfectly fine in your data center, right? So being able to, again, picture yourself in that house before you purchased it is what we're after, and we find that VR is a really great way to do that.
All I can think of is, I've done customer case study videos where they're like, you got to fly to Omaha and record this video. Some content creator inside HPE got a call one day saying, hey, you got to go shoot a video. Really? Cool. Where? Space. What? Oh, that's fantastic. So, I think that's the idea of immersive experiences in the technology space. Dramatically underused, really. But you're right. That draws somebody into it. You could show a bunch of pictures. Here's an example of what's happening. Here's a one-pager. It's nice and glossy. But taking somebody into that experience changes your customer's experience and makes it very real to them. And I think that's incredibly innovative in what I see as a customer journey, which is generally digital content step. This is, hey, we're going to space today, and we're going to show you how this really works. And I think that's just incredibly powerful.
just to kind of add to that, like in our customer center, like, you can come in and do that VR experience, but the great thing about it is that we also have other assets that are in the tour that we can go through that's more of hands-on. So it's not just you experience this in VR. Like one of the other experiences that we have in VR is being able to be in the pit along with the Mercedes-AMG Petronas team, and you're making real-time decisions based on the data that's coming in on, for the as the race occurs, the F1 race occurs. Well, the great thing about this is that when you first walk into our center in Houston, there is a full-scale, like, authorized, licensed Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 race car. So before you experience this, you get to actually see what the actual car looks like. And then you come around the back of the ramp, and then you can do the VR, and then you're in the pit. So like you've just heard all of this, this amazing stuff about like, what this car can do as a edge device, but then you get to go experience it in VR immediately after that. And it's the same thing with the space example. Like we actually have an astronaut suit and the replica of the Spaceborne Computer 2 in our center. So again, like one of the things that I've tried to focus on as we're building these different content experiences is that it's not just a one and done, right? We want to make sure that when we hit on something that it sticks, and the best way to do that is to allow people to experience those stories in different ways, because not everybody remembers things the same way. So the more times and the more different ways you can really build on that experience, the more impactful and the longer it stays in their memory.
Just so our listeners understand, how much cloud do I need to buy to be able to come to Houston and do this?
Hey, we give tours all the time. So, just for people that are wanting to check out the center, obviously there would probably need to be some interest in our hardware and services. But yeah, we give a lot of tours because. And you can actually see, especially on social media, we get tagged all the time. People taking pictures with the race car and the astronaut suit, and our theater is something else. It's a 180 degree LED screen that's 50 feet wide. So it's a lot.
It's kind of the same here in our Concord offices. People that come to visit here get to experience a 12-year-old small dog that sits on my desk and sleeps. It's in real reality. It's not as exciting, but that's a thing that happens. I think any other question that I ask on this is probably at this point redundant, because that's just, the idea of how is this helping you achieve your goals. I see how it's helping achieve your goals. It makes it real to people. It's not just a thing like, here's an idea of a thing that we might be able to do. Here's a thing. We've done it. Please take part in it. And that changes the game, because it takes you beyond the paper. We think of content as the written word. This is real. This is living it.
Well, and it's funny because just in this post-pandemic thing that we're still dealing with, our competitors, a lot of them we integrate with now, right? So competition is a very different thing than it used to be, and it's almost to the point. And this like reminds me of when I was a kid, and like the pastor in church would tell us, like, our biggest competitor is not the church down the street, it's the bed, because like just getting people out of bed, to come to church on Sunday is what we're after, and that's how it is now, because people spent the last 2 or 3 years in this comfortable recliner in front of a huge screen TV and wearing comfortable clothing, and so now getting people into the centers, like I feel like the things that we've done seem like they're really over the top, but that's almost what you have to do now to get someone to physically come in and have this kind of conversation, right? So yeah, our competition is the same as everyone else's is. It's that big screen TV that you bought over the past 2 years, and that comfy chair that we can't get you out of.
Seems like a really neat idea when you book tickets to go someplace, and then it comes and you're like, I don't really want to go anymore. But this would actually get people to leave and travel. Here we are at my favorite part of the conversation. I like provocative, and we've come up with this concept of the provocative statement of the day. What do you got? What are you seeing right now that isn't not a widely held position, that is a little provocative?
Just again, what I just kind of finished with, like, nobody wants to get out, like just getting people to a location now, because everybody feels like they can do it remotely. And I still think that there is a massive impact on that humanity and being able to have the conversation and having the hands-on experiences. And so, so the provocative experiences is basically just like they don't want to. Like nobody wants to. Nobody wants to go do that anymore. Nobody wants to travel. Nobody wants to fly. Nobody wants to go across country to go to some company to go. It's like, just let me see it online. So like getting them into this place and because this is where we can really build some excitement. So they can, we can kind of show them what we're doing, but then we can talk to them and understand what they're doing. But like what we're really trying to do is figure out how we can work together to improve the way they do business in the future. And so them being in the centers is just the best way. And you don't get complaints when they're leaving, right? It's just getting them here in the first place.
It's amazing because your provocative statement is actually your guiding force. Like this is the thing that you're doing to drive engagement with your audiences, which I guess when you started it could have been a huge gamble. But I mean, I'm in. I'm ready to buy some cloud at this point. Like this is exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And, and the nice thing about it, too, is that we have this, huge offering now that's really all encompassing. And I that's the kind of an everything as a service, which, a few companies have gone toward. But again, that integration with what in the past has seemed like some competitors, like this is a really great way for people to be able to have some of that hands-on experience, see what and it's funny because like we actually have some racks of hardware in our customer center. And some of the customers that come in, it's funny, like hearing their feedback. It's like, it's like now that we've moved to HPE GreenLake and everything is as a service, it's kind of interesting to see the hardware that we don't actually have in our physical location anymore because it's all cloud-based now. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Michael, thank you for being here. This is, I think a remarkable use of content to drive customer engagement. Super excited about what you're doing. Hope to be able to talk to you again in the future. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to WordBirds. WordBirds is hosted by Chris Willis, produced by Charlotte Baxter Reed, and brought to you by Acrolinx. For more information on Acrolinx, visit www.acrolinx.com.